Hey guys, welcome. I'm Catherine, and this is Little Bits of Heaven Homestead. I've had several friends ask if I could put together a comprehensive soaping tutorial. Today's lesson is specifically on tools that you'll need. I'll talk about what I use here on my homestead and why I use them, and you can find most of the stuff uh, pretty much in your kitchen already, I would assume. So first and foremost, I want to talk about safety. You are working with lye. Anything that is soap, whether you are making hot process or cold process, you will be working with lye. There is a product you can purchase that the lye process has already been done for you called Melt and Pour. It's not quite the same as quote unquote traditional soap making, but it is an alternative out there for those of you that may be concerned and fearful about working with lye. But anytime you are making or using soap, it is a combination of lye, liquid, and some sort of fat. That's all soap is. And it's really easy to make at home, and especially if you're conscientious of safety concerns on the front end, you should have no problems going into this. So, like I said, safety first and foremost. Your eyes are important. If lye splashes in your eyes, that's a major issue. Anytime you do get lye in contact with your skin and or body, you want to rinse it out in fresh running water for 5-10 minutes or so. It's not the end of the world if it splashes on your skin. I would definitely be more concerned about my eyes. I do have a pair of the chemistry goggles that you would see in classrooms. More often than not, I opt to wear my shooting goggles or my shooting glasses. They do sell goggles that have a little lip that make a secure seal to your face. If you're purchasing these rather than sourcing from your own house what you may already have on hand, I would probably recommend going with those goggles that have the seal. That way, just in case some sort of crazy splashing does occur, Lord forbid, you're covered. And then also just regular dish gloves. This will keep your hands safe, keep your forearms safe. This is really, when I do get splashes, I tend to get them on my forearms. So that is something that these gloves do prevent. And like I said, you just rinse off in the sink. It's not catastrophic, so don't freak yourself out thinking that you're going to splash lye on you and it's going to eat straight through to your bone immediately. It is caustic, it will burn, it does eat organic material. You need to respect it, but don't fear it. Those two items right there will prevent a bunch of issues potentially down the road. So for minimal investment, that keeps your body safe. Some people recommend wearing long sleeves. It will, if you do splash on the material, it could ruin your material. I guess the alternative is splashing on your skin. That's usually the risk that I take, and like I said, I just rinse it off into the sink. If you have any sort of major lye issues, like you spill it on your countertop or your floor, you will want to address it because it is a chemical that is got some potential to do major harm, especially if you've got kids or pets walking through. So you can neutralize it using vinegar, but do have a plan in place before you start working with lye so that way you're not dealing with a potential emergency in the midst of an emergency with no plan. That's my safety spiel. Okay, so this looks like a lot of material and it's really not. You're going to want some sort of pot. This is really the foundation of your soap making. This is stainless steel. You don't want to use anything reactive like aluminum or tin because the lye will have a reaction with it and will off gas. It's also important to soap in a well-ventilated area. I do cold process soap making traditionally, and I'll go into that in future lessons because there is different ways of soap making. But with the cold process, I have less of an issue with off-gassing than I do with hot processing. So keep that in mind as you're determining what type of process of soap you want to make. That there's just different reactions, and they do, as chemistry guys, things react differently. So this is what I use initially to weigh my oils in. It's also what I use to melt my oils. This is where I mix all my oils that become the soap. So this is, like I said, it's really the foundation of my soap making. This is one of your most important tools. You're going to want some sort of kitchen scale because this is chemistry. It is important that you know not only how much of each ingredient you put in, but you need to be pretty precise. You can't just, there is some room for some, like rounding up and down-ish, but it is chemistry. It is important that you track your materials. I will also teach you guys how to use soapcalc.net at some point down the road, because it's important that you know your formulas, you understand how they're going to react, what they're going to do, and all the different properties. But anyways, this is super important. You cannot soap without a scale. Liquids. So like I said earlier, soap is nothing but lye, some sort of liquid, and a combination of fats and oil. So and you can use not necessarily even a combination, you just need a source of oils, so, or fats. So this is what I use to measure my liquids in. I do goat milk soap, so I pour frozen cubes directly into this, and again, everything gets weighed. This is what I weigh my lye into. So you can see most all of this stuff so far has been stuff you might already have in your kitchen. I would not recommend using your kitchen stuff that you also eat out of and serve your family food in. You can, in theory, use it for kitchen stuff after you make soap. I would recommend just picking up some independent materials, and that way you never have to worry about, is there some not fully saponified soap in there? Are my kids going to get lye issues ingesting whatever it is I just made in that pot? So rather than worry about it, I would suggest just go ahead and invest in having a second set that is just dedicated towards soaping. But again, this is all mostly kitchen materials. This is a temperature gun. Got it off of Amazon for like $14. Not only does it come in handy with soaping, I also get to play with cats with it. So, double win. This is probably one of my most used, appreciated, and handy tools as far as soaping goes. I've had the same one for, 3 years, 4 years. It's got a lot of use out of it. Probably not the strongest version out there. There's probably better versions. This one has definitely taken good care of me. But anyways, it's an immersion blender. I have made soap using just a spoon. You can do it. You don't necessarily need this. And then also, just for information's sake, we've tried out alternatives as far as mixing. We tried one of those paint mixers that you hook to the end of a drill and could not get our soap to come to trace. So found that interesting. Definitely highly recommend an immersion blender. Once I make the soap, if I'm going to do any sort of color variations, I have a handful of these guys. And so what I'll do is I'll pour my soap base from this into 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, depending on how creative I want to get, and color them. Plastic spoons. I use these not only to stir up the colorant after I've mixed it with the mixer, just to make sure that the colorant's fully incorporated, but I also use this to rough up the edges, and I'll show you on a finished bar of soap here in just a second. So that takes you through the whole making of the soap, and then you're going to want to pour it into some sort of mold. There's all sorts of fun silicone molds. This one's daisies. How cute. You can do just standard soap bars. This is what I started with. I started with 1, and then I bought 2, and then I bought 3 more, and then it became kind of silly, and I decided that I didn't even like this design. And so I went with, oh, right in front of my face, this. It's made out of pallet wood. I mean, this is about as simple and basic as you get. Plywood on the bottom. I line it with plastic wrap when I make my soap. I have 2 of these, and they make, let me show you, the most beautiful bars. So, and see how I rough up the tops there? I like how it gives me this very rustic, very old world, very homesteady feel. Anyway, so these have become my favorite size bars. And let's see. Oh, last but not least, plastic, or I guess silicone spatula. Very handy. So those are all the tools that I use for my soap making. I also wanted to show you, just for giggles, did this super cute little bacon scented pig. How fun is that? And then also, my final tip is keep a notebook. So I keep all my recipes in here. and I write down the date that I made the soap, when it should be ready to because they do need to cure for about 4 to 6 weeks. So I write that down just so I'm not guessing, like, did I make it this day? Did I make it this day? Is it ready to go? So that way I don't have to think back and try and remember. It's all written here for me. That just made life simple. So I hope this was of value. I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that you guys feel empowered and feel like you too can take on soaping. And I will be bringing you more content and empowering you and educating you on the soap making process here shortly. So again, guys, thanks for joining me. I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please go ahead and like the video. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. And hit that little notification bell just so you know when I post stuff. I will be talking to you guys later. Thanks for joining me.